bless your name. Hallelujah. We bless your name. What a mighty God we serve. We bless you, God. Yes, God. Yes, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Hallelujah, God. Oh, bless your name, God. You're worthy, God. Thank you, God. Bless your name, God. Bless your name, God. Oh, bless your name. The mighty God we serve. Amen. As we prepare to go forward, today's word, turn your attention to the book of Jeremiah. Jeremiah, the 18th chapter. Familiar passage. Jeremiah, the 18th chapter. Starting at verse number 1. Jeremiah, the 18th chapter. Starting at verse number 1. Jeremiah, the 18th chapter, starting at verse number 1. And it reads as follows. And the word which came to Jeremiah from the Lord, saying, Arise and go down to the potter's house, and there will I cause thee to hear my words. Then I went down to the potter's house, and behold, he wrought a work on the wheels. And the vessel that he made of clay was marred in the hand of the potter. So he made it again, another vessel, as seemed good to the potter to make it. And the vessel that he made of clay was marred in the hand of the potter. So he made it again, another vessel, as seemed good to the potter to make it. We're going to stop right there. Today I just want to speak real quick from the subject text. He made me over.
Yes, he did. Hallelujah.
He made me
Yes, he did.
over.
Thank you, Lord.
In this season that I would consider a season of change, because we are obviously moving from the summer season into the season of fall that just started just a little over a week ago. And oftentimes when we transition from season to season, it's no different than a season in which we encounter in our natural lives, spiritually or not, that there is always a shift, there is always a change, there is always a transition. And how you respond to that transition will determine how you engage your next season. And what I've discovered is there are some key things that we have to look at when we look at this particular text. The first verse in the chapter says, the word which came to Jeremiah from the Lord saying, verse 2, arise and go down to the potter's house. Oftentimes when God is trying to bring an understanding or bring a word, he often requires us to move from our place of comfort to a place where we are not as comfortable, but it's for us that we may be able to see and hear the word of the Lord. But in our seasons, we grow comfortable. We get caught up in being relaxed. And when God is trying to summon us to move, we remain stagnant. We remain in place instead of moving, where God is trying to send us that we may hear and receive a word which is important for our next season, that we receive it and be able to move into it seamlessly.
Yes.
Amen.
But because of our inability
That's right.
to capture God's direction, we remain in places where God has only wanted us to be just a moment, but we spent a lifetime.
Well,
That's right.
Sometimes we be in places far too long than God really wanted us to be there. But because we unpacked our bags, because we grew comfortable in whatever we were in, we got to a point where we were not listening to the word of the Lord. So we find ourselves looking at this text, pondering what direction is God trying to send us. Is he trying to redirect our understanding? Is he trying to get us to a place where we can receive a word that will enlighten our current state of mind, that will give us the clarity that we're seeking?
Amen.
Whatever it is, we have to be mindful of the fact that whenever God gives us direction,
Yes.
we have to learn how to follow it.
Yes. Amen.
In the text, it says that he sends him down to the potter's house. Whenever God is trying to do something in your life, he's often trying to get your attention. And in this text, I discovered something, that before God can really speak to you, he has to get you to a place where you can have a time of reflection.
Amen.
He wants you to reflect on something. He needs you to revisit or to reassess your path, because there has been something that you have encountered that you may have missed along the way in the current season, that you need to learn and you need to dislodge yourself from, so you don't carry it into your next season. Notice that as the potter has the clay in his hand, he reflects on the fact that the clay has been marred. Because of the potter taking care of the clay that he had already made, he noticed that it had been marred. And in the Hebrew, that word marred means to be decayed, to have ruined, to be flawed. So he discovered that there was something wrong with the clay that he had in his hand. His reflection over what he was viewing determined that what he saw could not go forward, because it will cause too much harm later than for him to redo it now. Sometimes you got to understand that in your reflection of your walk, that there are some things you need to fix now, because you can't carry them to your later.
yeah.
You need to fix them now, because if you carry it on to your later, it will disrupt a blessing that God has waiting for you. Too many times we've passed our way through some stuff and held on to some pains, or held on to some pains that God wanted us to relinquish in the reflection of what we just went through, because he needs us to see that the only thing we need to draw from that pain was that we were stronger than what the enemy, what the folks were trying to tell us when we were going through it. He didn't want you to carry that pain. He didn't want you to carry that heartache. He didn't want you to carry that discord, because he knew it would interrupt you in your next season and keep you from getting the blessing that he had waiting for you.
Amen.
In your time of reflection, you need to let yourself know that there are some things you got to let go of. There are some things you got to learn how just to lead by the wayside. Have you ever asked yourself the question, why do leaves shed themselves during the fall? Have you ever asked yourself, why do the leaves turn and then fall? Why is it that they have to go through a season, that they have to let go of some things in order for them
good to continue on. Well, you know what? I looked up why do leaves shed. And what I discovered is that leaves have to shed because they're in a season in which they need to learn how to restore more so that they will be able to give off more later in the season of growth. In other words, in order for them to retain more water, in fall, they have to shed their leaves. They have to shed those things that they have fed throughout the season prior to, and they have to go through the winter taking in so that when spring comes, they'll have something that they can give birth to, because in their season of growth, the one thing that they need most is water that will produce the thing that God has given them to produce. In other words, there are seasons in your life where God needs you to shed the old in order for you to get to the season where you can birth something new. But the problem is that we can't let go of the old stuff, and therefore we will get no new growth because we've allowed ourselves to stick on and hold on to the things that are holding us back. What was good last season ain't going to be good next season. You got to learn how to let some stuff go and stop trying to keep it and thinking that it's going to get better. No, baby, it ain't going to get better. Some things are just meant for the season in which you obtain them, and you don't need to carry them on to your next season.
Thank you, Lord. Amen.
You can't retain stuff. You can't be replenished.
Yes.
Because you got too much stuff hanging on to you, blocking you from gaining the strength you need to go to your next season. It ain't just the stuff we carry, it's the stuff that other folks dump on us. You know, we got some folk who will leave everything at our footstep. No, you're supposed to leave your stuff at the foot of your God. Don't leave it at my doorstep to deal with. But because we let them come and dump their garbage and dump their pain and dump their agony and dump their confusion, you become a dump stop. And they leave all their mess and all their drama at your door, in your house, in your room, in your ear gate. And now you can't even function for your own problems because you're so caught up dealing with theirs. You be so tired of talking to them on the phone and texting them back and forth where you don't even answer your phone no more. You get off of social media not because social media is on your nerves. It's because the folks that you call your friends are on your nerves. And you don't know how to shake them because you feel obligated to listen. The devil is a lie. You got to learn how to clear up your own life so that you can get replenished, so that you become a blessing not just to yourself, but for those around you. How is he going to make you over? When you got so much garbage in front of him, he can't even get to you.
Come on. Lord have mercy.
He's sifting through this mess that don't even belong to you.
Thank you, Lord.
Amen.
You weary, wounded, and tired from drama don't even belong to you.
Say it, Pastor. Say it.
You got a headache and a migraine, and it ain't even your problem.
Yes, that's right.
You not sleeping, and it ain't your drama.
Yes, say it. Amen.
But because we've allowed ourselves not to reflect enough to know what's not good for us, that we can understand that we got to discard ourselves from the things that are not good and hold on to those things that have been helping us and keeping us. In the text, he says that the clay was marred. In his reflection of what he had made, he noticed that there were some imperfections and he needed to make it again. That brings us to our next point. Not only must there be a time of reflection, but there also needs to be a time to respond, or a time of response. Now that's an action word. To respond means something has to be done. Notice in the text, after he reflects and notices that there is a marred clay in his hand, that he says that he needs to make it again. He decides at that point in time that he needs to remold what is already in his hand in order to make it again, because what he saw that was in it wouldn't make it any good if he left it the way it was. So he needed to respond to what he saw and he responded by making it again. Sometimes we got to learn how to respond to what the things that we responded or things that we reflected on. In other words, if you saw through your last season that your relationship with God wasn't where you wanted it to be, your response should be to pray a little bit more. And you know, when you reflect on your last season and notice that you didn't feel the presence of God enough, then maybe you need to study the word a little bit more in your next season. There are always things that require us to reflect on and then respond off of what we've seen that we needed to do in order for us to get better in our next season. Sometimes we don't try to get better, we just try to stay where we are.
That's right.
We don't want big changes because too much change is not good. Well, that don't even make sense, because if you're changing for the better, then maybe the onset of the change is uncomfortable. Because that's what happens when you're in the hand of the potter. He says in order for him to make it again, he has to reshape it. So in other words, it can't look like it did before. So he has to start to mold it, and being molded don't feel good, but it's necessary. There are some things that are necessary in your life in order for God to get the best out of you. Sometimes he has to take you through some peaks and some valleys. Sometimes he got to take you through the wilderness. Sometimes you got to go through the desert, but it ain't because he didn't love you. It's because he's working on you. He's trying to get something out of you. He's trying to bring something in you. And the only way he can do that is to cause something on the inside of you to start to feel uncomfortable. Because you know how we are. We won't push unless we have to. And God is trying to tell you in this season, if you want me to make you over, you got to push through the pain. You got to push through the frustration. You got to push through the agony. You got to push through all the hell and the mess that you've gone through. Because what God is going to give you on the other side of your push is a blessing that will keep you like nobody ever did before. You want him to make you over.
Yes.
But it's necessary that he responds to the imperfections that he's seen in us, and he has to reshape us. And the reshaping is hurtful. The reshaping is uncomfortable, but it's for the good. It's a necessary part of the process that if he doesn't remake you, you'll remain marred. But you got to understand that every time you are being remade, that the only thing you have to understand is that you're still in his hands, that he never lets you go. But the fact that you're still in his hands means you are still in the right place, because he didn't toss the clay away. He didn't go down and pick up another batch of clay. He just kept the one he had, because he knew what he had he could remix. And that's the good news, is that God is not trying to throw you away. He's trying to keep you where you are. And he's just trying to remold you and reshape you, that he can use you.
Thank you, Lord.
Thank you.
Hallelujah. Thank you.
For the benefit
Yes. Thank you, Lord.
of the kingdom.
Yes.
Not only
Thank you, Jesus.
must there be a time of reflection,
Amen. Amen.
not only must there be
Thank you,
a
Lord.
time of response, or a time to respond to what you have reflected on. Lastly, there must be a time of renewal.
Amen.
Because notice in the text, the whole purpose of him of making the clay over again is to create something that was better than it was when he found that there was a flaw. In other words, when he looks at you and sees that there is an imperfection, and that he notices that he has to respond to that imperfection by making it again another, it means that after he's finished, that marred part of your clay will no longer be present, because he worked it to the point where it would no longer show to those who are looking. But he knew what he did, because he knows where it was, but because he worked it so that it will look just like you came through, like better than you were when you went out. In other words, you know the story about the 10 lepers, and you know the stories how he said to them, go and and show yourself to the men after he told them that they were healed. And as they went, they were healed. And then one returned and he glorified God. And Jesus said to them, today you are going to be made whole. Don't you know that at that very instance that his skin looked better than it did any time in his life? Because when God makes you over, he doesn't make you over with the imperfection. He makes you new so that no semblance of what had you marred would be able to be seen, because it would only be a figment of those who could remember what you used to look like. You know, the man who lay by the pool of Bethesda, he was only recognized by the fact that he was carrying his bed. And had he not carried his bed, then he would have looked like just like everybody else who had been walking the streets. But because he was carrying that bed, somebody said, ain't that the man who lay by the pool of Bethesda for some 38 years? But now he's not laying, but he's walking. When God makes you over, you don't look like you did before. You turn into something new. You turn into something new, something that has been transformed, something that has been brought to be something different than it was before. When God makes you over, the good news is that he don't make you like you used to be. That you become an upgrade to the fact that you came through something and you don't look like what you've been through. That now that you have got to a point where God has made you over, he's made you better, he's made you more successful, he's made you more to a point where people can see what God has done for you, that you are no longer looking like you used to look, but now God has upgraded you to a point where everybody sees that there has to be a God. Because if you had seen me last season, then you would have known that there was no way I could have got myself out of that mess. I was laid up in a hospital. I was tore up from the floor of my house. I got an eviction notice. My job laid me off. But thank be to God that he decided to make me over. When I didn't think there would be something new, God decided to give me a new song. He gave me a new look. He gave me a new outlook, that my praise became different. My worship became different. And now, because all things are new, I can rejoice and be glad in what God has brought me out of. If you want him to make you over,
hallelujah.
Stay put on the potter's wheel.
Yes, that's right.
This whole text was about Israel
That's right.
being disobedient unto God, not following his directions, not following his word. But God sent Jeremiah down there to show him, tell the people that if they change their ways, I won't destroy them. If they move from the path that they're on now, I'll bring them back. I won't allow my anger be kindled fully against them. If they just realize they're still in my hand. That I haven't left them or forsaken them. But it's their actions that have caused my wrath to be upon them. But if they just turn from their ways, I won't kindle my wrath against them. Whatever you are dealing with today can be temporary. If you allow the Master to make you over again.
Amen.
There is nothing too hard for our God. I don't care how bad you think your circumstance is. I don't care how long you've been in it. God can still make you over again. What I love about this particular text, that everything that transpired with the potter transpired before he put them into the flame to make what he made permanent. Because anybody who's ever had a pottery class knows that you can leave your clay on the wheel, you can shape it, you can mold it, but after it is finished, after you have got into its design destiny, leaving it out doesn't finish it. But what finishes it, that you have to put it into the fire to make everything that you did to it permanent. And anytime you put imperfected clay into the furnace and you heat it, and those imperfections become permanent, those cracks become permanent. Those defects become permanent. And for everybody who keeps saying, God made me this way, the devil is a lie. You just don't want to be made over. But baby, if you want to get into the kingdom of God, you need to get on the potter's wheel and stay there until your clay becomes from being hard to being perfect. That he may take you into the fire and that you come out better than you were. Let's stop making excuses for our ways, for our attitudes, for our lack of character and morale. Making excuses. Well, that was a long time ago that I did that, but it looks like that behavior is right before us right now. It may have happened some 30 plus years ago, but it sure don't look like you got the same attitude that somebody would have if they did what they claimed that you doing or did then. See, you can't change what you've done unless you take yourself back to the master and be changed. You can stay, you can try to cover it up as much as you want. You can get as many degrees, as many jobs, as many people that like you, and many people to pat you on the back as you want. But if you still got the same character flaws, those same issues, they will remain. Because you have not allowed yourself to be made over. I don't care how big you think you are, or how small you are. God can make you over. There is nobody too big or too small that God cannot restore and make you better than you are now. Stop making excuses. In this season, in which we know shedding is necessary so that we can be replenished, so that we can be filled again. So that when our season of harvest comes, we'll have something to harvest. It's not enough that you got a pocket full of seed. Do you have what it takes to make those things grow? God talks about pruning. And he's the one in the text in the Bible says that he has to prune us. In other words, he has to cut away those things that are necessary for us to grow in the next season. But the only way he can cut those things away is unless you're willing to be in his hand. And then let go of those things that he cut. Not try to take them back on as if they've never been separated from him. It's necessary for you to lose some things this season. It's necessary. The things we shouldn't lose this season, we shouldn't shouldn't lose sleep.
Amen.
We shouldn't lose faith. We shouldn't lose our praise. We shouldn't lose our worship. We shouldn't lose our love. We shouldn't lose our trust in God. Those are things that we should not lose. But all the things we need to lose, we need to lose that doubt, that confusion, that frustration, that anger, doubt, all those things we need to lose. Because they'll keep us from being filled again. And then we'll get to our next season without anything that has sprouted, without no fruit. Then what are we to do then? If you want God to make you over, stay in His hand and let God do what He does. Everyone resting on your feet and faith.